Dear colleagues, we will start now the press briefing of Colonel Andriy Lysenko, the spokesman for anti-terrorist operation, about combat action in the zone of the TO and the situation in towns and villages there. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. The regime of silence continues to hold in the anti-terrorist operation zone. However, the gunmen are engaging in chaotic and unsuccessful attempts to provoke anti-terrorist operation zones. Forces over the last 24 hours, 3 Ukrainian military got wounded. However, there were no killed. Yesterday, to the northeast of Mariupol, the patrol of Azov regiment have detected the subversive and sabotage and reconnaissance group of terrorists. The gunmen have fired at the Ukrainian military. Our military replied with a fire, after which the terrorists have retreated. The command of the National Guards of Ukraine categorically refused the information of some mass media yesterday about the heavy wounding of a general of National Guards in Mariupol. In reality, he got wounded, he got a trauma of his head during the performance of his duties in M sector. He's under treatment now, and there's a internal inspection. The Ukrainian bodyguards are stopping any attempts of provocations on the part of gunmen. Yesterday in the evening, the Ukrainian Border Patrol detected the movement of an unknown person who tried to avoid the control point Georgievka. While trying to detain him, the unknown person has fired and tried to get away. The search for him is still on. At the same control point, checkpoint, the bodyguards have detained a person who tried to cross the border, the boundary on the jelly car, in avoiding the checkpoint, and 2 grenades and 2 pistols. Also, the device for noiseless firing, navigator and mobile phone were found at him. Yesterday, the bodyguards have again detected 3 facts of air reconnaissance with drones next to Berdyansk, Sartana in Donetsk region, and Tryokhizbenko, Luhansk region. In the vicinity of settlement of Bugas, Donetsk region, the border patrol have detained 2 lorries with 2,645 boxes of cigarettes without necessary documents. The cost of the confiscated goods is around 11,400,000 hryvnia. Also, not far from the city of Artemis, the bodyguards have confiscated another 108 boxes of contraband cigarettes. Over the last 24 hours, counterintelligence of the Security Service of Ukraine have detained 8 subversive agents and abettors of terrorists. In the city of Artemis, a citizen of Ukraine born in 1953 was detained. He was a commander of a mortar unit of one of the illegal armed formations with the nickname Did Grandfather, who was recruiting mercenaries for local gunmen groups. One of such groups have seized the building of the Inakiev Children's Specialized Boarding House for orphans with a limited sight, as a result of which dozens of kids were left without roof over their heads. Also, the counterintelligence of the Security Service have detained an active participant in anti-Ukrainian actions and seizure of Mariupol City Council in the spring. The gunman nicknamed Boxer was kidnapping local residents and detaining them illegally in the cellar of the terrorist headquarters. The special operation of the Ukrainian counterintelligence was successful, as a result of which they detained a worker of one of the prisons of temporary detention that broke his oath of allegiance and joined the enemy. He was ordered by a gunman of an LNR bandit formation with the nickname Fascist to inform the detained terrorists and also pass to their cells the things that were banned. In Chernihiv region, the security service have detained 3 members of a criminal grouping that were in cahoots with the gunmen in the east of Ukraine. They tried to organize the sale of arms taken away from the zone of combat action in the Donetsk region. They tried to sell 4 AK-47 submachine guns, pistols TT and PM, and almost 500 rounds of ammunition. They during the search of their premises and dwellings, a automated grenade launcher, 66 grenades, 3 submachine guns, and almost 1,500 rounds of ammunition, and almost $60,000 in cash were confiscated. In Konstantinovka, the state security service have detained 2 marauders, looters, who disguised themselves as a patrol in masks and camouflage. They have made their way into the dwelling of a local resident and took $10,000 of US from him. In Yasinuvata, there were again armed clashes between gunmen of Oplot and Vostok battalion because they tried to redefine their influence zones. And today at 2:30 a.m. at the railway distance Mariupol-Sartana, on the railway bridge over the Kalmius River, an explosion happened. The bridge and railway line were damaged. There are no casualties, however. The movement of trains is temporarily suspended. And Ludinov BD, People in Need, charity organization, continues to work in Donbass. In Avdiivka, the Czech Friends of Ukraine have brought 1,000 blankets for local residents who have suffered as a result of criminal actions of terrorists. As a result, in Donetsk region, the Ukrainian authorities have restored 5,276 objects. And now the questions.
Could you please specify what is the situation with joint patrolling of the border by Ukrainian and Russian forces? We're not talking about joint patrolling. We have the state border, we have the state border service, we have the representatives of OSCE who are also monitoring the situation at the state border and at the line of delimitation between the territories under the control of Ukrainian forces and under the control of the terrorists. What about this smuggling of cigarettes? Does it go from occupied territories to our territories? It's from the occupied territories to the territories which are under the control of Ukrainian authorities. These are the attempts to smuggle the cigarettes. And the cases that I have mentioned, in these cases, the smuggling was stopped, and As far as I know, and the representatives of fiscal service should also be in the ATO zone so that they can register these violations right there. Were these cigarettes made in Russia? I do not know. The 10th humanitarian convoy arrived to Donetsk Oblast. Do you have information about the return of these trucks? Were they taking 200 cargo back? This so-called 10th humanitarian convoy very quickly returned back to the territory of Russian Federation. We have calculated that for unloading one truck, they spent 2 minutes 21 seconds, and that is the truck which should have 20 tons of cargo. And we understand that's impossible to do that. Probably they did not put anything in there. Any other questions? They sent the humanitarian convoy, but they forgot to put anything inside, and they returned it back to Russia. Could you please tell were the cases when the terrorists or Russian mercenaries refused to fight on the side of our enemies? And if they refuse to fight, where they go back? If Russia doesn't accept them back, there are such cases, and they are quite systemic now. And these cases are downloaded into the internet. The local citizens who were first deceived were enrolled into the forces of Lugansk and Donetsk, so-called republics, but because Russians are not financing them, the situation has become very serious with subordination and with financing. So local citizens surrender. They write reports to their so-called masters, and they stay on the territories where they are, but without any weapons. They are not opposing, and they are there just like the peaceful citizens. Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Lysenko.